friends, happy Wednesday to you. This is Libier from Libier.com, giving you an inspirational video today on how to revisit your goals, your vision, your dreams, how to jumpstart all of that God called you to do at the beginning of the year, and you wrote it down and you were like, yes, these are my goals, these are my intentions, this is what I'm gonna do for my life, and then 2 weeks in, maybe you gave up, right? You're not alone. A lot of people get discouraged because if it doesn't work out really quickly, we get discouraged and we give up and we don't want to work on it. But I'm here to hopefully press that reset button on your spirit and your heart and your fire and your passion. And I know God has done it for me just in the recent, couple of weeks, and it's been such a good reset. I think that developing a relationship with God and with ourselves is possibly quite the most amazing quest and investment of our time, that we would develop an amazing relationship with God and ourselves. And a way that I have been able to start developing those two relationships has been the source of a bullet journal. I don't know if you've ever heard of a bullet journal, but I had never heard of it. I have a few bullet journals under my belt, and I can tell you that they have been such a humongous tool and a blessing in my life. And I just wrote a blog post about it that's a little more in depth of how it really has encouraged me. So I will leave the link of the blog post down below, because I think it will encourage you and inspire you to utilize something like this as a tool. I've also linked on the blog post all of my my favorite bullet journal and new pens that I just got that are amazing, and then the actual pens that I use to journal with, and then some fun washi tape. I bought some different ones at Michael's the other day with my little girls, but I found some on Amazon that are very similar to the ones I bought. If you're interested in looking at all of that, don't forget to go visit Libier.com for those good, valuable sources. Right now is such a good time to just dig deep into the feelings of what is it that has been stopping you from doing the work that it requires to set down goals and to follow the intention that you had at the beginning of the year. I believe a lot of it has to do with fear of success or fear of failure. And as I wrote in the blog post, I just want to offer to you that no matter what it is that you fear, I want you to know God's perfect love casts out all fear, because fear has to do with punishment. And the Bible says that the one who is made perfect in love has no fear. And I mean, that sounds a little bit like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine having no fear, right? And I think the Bible talks about fear a lot. You see verses over and over. A common thread in the Bible is God telling us to not be afraid. And I don't believe that God is saying, don't feel fear, because that's our human nature, is to have those feelings. But I think what God is saying is, even though you feel afraid, believe in me, believe in how I've called you, how I love you unconditionally. And because of that love and acceptance, and that I gave my one and only Son for you to live a life of freedom and abundance, believe in those things. And because you believe in me, you don't have to fear. So I have lived my life that way for the past 7 years now that I have followed Jesus. I gave my life to Jesus 7 years ago. My timelines get muddled up a little bit, but ever since then, I have been recovering from being a fearholic. If anybody else out there has those feelings of like intense fear of failure or success, and I'm always getting myself tripped up. And this is the reason why I love a bullet journal, is because if you have any toxic thoughts, I always do like a brain dump of the thoughts that I'm having, and I sit down and I write and I journal with myself as far as what is it that I'm thinking about any sort of situation. And then I look at those thoughts, and if they're toxic, I ask God to help me to fix those toxic thoughts and to believe what He has to say about my life, about me, and about the situation, that I would begin to believe God over the fears and over the toxicity that is in my brain. But an important aspect of it is to jot it down. So I want to show you a little bit of how I write a model, okay? Because that's what I've learned how to do from a life coach. So what they say to do is to write down a model. So you write down C, T, A, and R. The C are circumstances. Those are things that you could prove in the court of law. So say for example, someone said to me, Libier, you are ugly, okay? Say that was the circumstance. I would write down in the circumstance line, someone said, Libier, you are ugly, okay? So if that's verbatim what they said to me, that's something that I could write in the C line. Now, thoughts, the T line are thoughts. What are my thoughts about what that person said? Well, I can think, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I am ugly. Maybe that's true about me. Those could be my thoughts. Oh, there's something wrong with me. That could be another thought. So I would write down what the thoughts are. More often than not, I start my models with the thoughts, because that's what kind of gets muddied, and you think that your thoughts are actually the circumstance, but we're sort of, any situation we go through, we're seeing it from our perspective, and sometimes that could be a toxic perspective. So when we jot down our thoughts and you actually do the work to do this, you realize that the thoughts about your situation are totally different, right? So the circumstance could be just very plain Jane. The thoughts are what create your actions, okay? Your actions, after someone called me ugly, I could start acting ugly. I could start rebelling against that and wanting to prove that I am in fact ugly. Like, yeah, of course that person thinks that of me. That must be who I am. And my actions would become somewhat of a toxic behavior, like maybe self-harm or feeling unworthy, or like nobody loves me. So my actions would be to self-sabotage. And then the results would be me living a life that is not free of what people think about me, right? And then it would just be this cycle of toxicity. So what I like to do is I like to write two models. I write what is in my head. I write without judging myself, right? I just literally like verbal bluntness on the page. I write without judgment, because that's how my head perceives it. And if I hold on to that, then that becomes my identity. And I think that's where a lot of us are being tricked, is we think we are what people say that we are, and that is far from the truth. God has called us beloved. God calls us a princess in Jesus' court. God calls us, he calls us his sons and his daughters. So if we're a daughter of a king, that means that, we are royalty. And that might not be by the world standard, and that might not be by your family standard. They might still call you names. People in school might still call you things, but it is our responsibility. That's the beauty of being a person, is that we have the ability to respond in whatever way we want. So if somebody calls us ugly, we get to either say, yes, I partner with that, and that's gonna become my identity, or no, that's not who I am. And in a way that my life coach really, really made this concept very clear to me, was that she said, if somebody were to come up to you and say, Libier, you have ugly blue hair, and they were like super serious about it, and they were, in trash about my blue hair, I would laugh because I don't have blue hair, and I'd be like, okay, you're silly, that's cute, you think I have blue hair. I don't. But if somebody said something to me that I might, in the depths of my soul, have a question about, whether it be my worth, whether it be my ability, whether it be hurt from past hurts that is being brought up again, like, am I worthy of love and connection? Do I belong? A lot of the time, from the things that I endured in life, I thought that I never belonged anywhere. I thought that I was too dirty and too flawed to be loved, and that if anybody really knew the real me and the things that I had gone through and the things that, I'm a survivor of abuse, and sexual abuse can really wreak havoc on a person's identity. I had all these host of problems and issues with my identity, and when I started realizing that all of these thoughts that I had in my head about the abuse that I endured were so toxic, the abuse I endured had nothing to do with me. So I had to write down a model of, what did it mean to be abused in my life? It meant that there was something flawed and wrong with me. And then when I changed the model and I wrote down the same circumstance, the circumstance didn't change. I still was, there was sexual abuse in my past. But the thoughts about it, my thoughts about it transformed. I started thinking they must have been so sad and something must have happened to them that led them to do this to me, right? And God has the power to help me to forgive and help me to heal from this. And if I stop partnering with those toxic thoughts, I'm gonna feel differently. And I'm on my way to healing. I'm on my way to learning how to become unashamed from my past and to have this vision for my future that does not look like itself, right? We are afraid of our futures because we're looking backwards and we're thinking, gosh, I failed there. Look at what they did to me there. Look at what I did there. And we have all this shame and unworthiness because of our past. And God is calling us to, if we believe in Him and have faith in Him, we have faith to know that He is going to give us a future that does not even compare to our past. And He says that in Him all things hold together, and in Him we are a new creation. It says, behold, all things are gone, and He is creating something new. And what He's creating is a new person, a new relationship with Him and yourself. But I believe that a bullet journal is such a great source of just getting to know how to talk to yourself, how to discover your powers. I did this little guy and it was so helpful. Okay, I'm being really vulnerable here and sharing this with you, but I wrote a little alter ego. I drew myself and I wrote down, what is my superpowers? Like when I'm operating at my very, very best, like when I am the best Libier I can possibly be, when I am the Libier that God loves and calls His own, when I am that child of God, how can I serve and how can I show up as the best version of myself? And I wrote down what my ability and my superpowers are when I am rooted deeply in the love of Christ. And I wrote them down because I think it's important for me to have a new vision of who I want to become in God's strength, right? God died for us to live a life free of shame, and He wants to give us life and life abundant. And I don't believe that having the old us, unless you feel like you have an amazing relationship with yourself and you have nothing to change about yourself, which, I mean, you know, I feel like all of us have something that we can do better at. And I know that I will not attain perfection because only God is perfect, and that's only for heaven, and in heaven's perspective that we get to reach that and feel that. But as long as I am living, I want to be encouragement and an inspiration to somebody to believe in the God call in your life, to believe that you are that best version of yourself, that you kind of like, you desire it. You know that. You know when you see somebody that you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could be like them. You don't have to be like them. You could be the best version of you. And the only way you can do that is by knowing yourself. And I highly, highly suggest a journaling system. And obviously the bullet journal from me has been a godsend. I hope that you get inspired to jot down the very, very best version of yourself. Here's what I saw a picture of. I saw the old me, okay? I saw the old Libier, and I know I have to walk out of her. I know I have to say goodbye and grieve her, okay? Because she's not me anymore. And the way that I'm gonna walk into the new me, I saw God giving me a bridge, which was the cross. And that is available to all of us through faith. I think that's so beautiful because there's not one of you, not one of us that isn't able to find this type of freedom, to utilize the bridge that is the cross, to walk across and to live a new life free of shame, free of guilt, free of all the things that have hindered you from becoming the very best version of who you are. And I believe that God has amazing plans and purpose for you. They look different, you know, they all look different. We have different gifts and different abilities, but all of us are wired with a purpose. We were made on purpose, and Jesus is the bridge to that new self. So I hope this encourages and inspires you. I really hope that you consider subscribing to the channel. I make videos every week on style, beauty, and inspiration, and it is my honest hope and my honor to inspire you to become the very best of who you are. I love you so much. I will see you next week.